I think what happened, frankly, is he said something about CZ, the founder of Binance, in possibly one or two of those meetings. It got back to CZ. He got super upset about it and said, okay, we're in a divorce. We're not going to make love. That was the Twitter comments, right? And he hit him with about $500 million worth of FTT tokens. And I don't think Sam could keep that token at a level that would support all of the infrastructure and the leverage that he had on his balance sheet. And so we saw a collapse. So weirdly, the association with us and the trip to the Middle East sort of tipped the first domino a lot earlier than maybe that domino would have been tipped otherwise.
Were really into compliance, and you felt that FTX was up to regulatory standards. But in the end, do you feel duped, lied to, or betrayed?
You know, I'm a big boy. I've seen this movie before. I will say on a personal level, and I don't think if you talk to 10 people that knew Sam, 9 of them are going to say what a wonderful guy he was. And I'm one of those. I just think he's a very interesting individual. Over time, we'll peel this onion, find out what happened. I don't think that guy has an evil bone in his body. I've met his parents. They're compliance lawyers, Stanford. Wonderful people, very philanthropic. It was those, it's meeting the team there that gave me the confidence to get involved with this, because I wanted a platform, a robust platform where my compliance department, my accounting, my financial people, and my own operating company and our auditors could look at this and say, all right, we can understand the transactions, we can account for it, and we can report to regulators as we must. And we did. The truth is the FTX platform was very robust. It was very well designed. Hundreds of millions of dollars went into making that. And that's why there was sovereign interest and pension interest in the platform itself, because at that time, just before the gates came down, you got to remember, all of these funds got gated, towards the end of the week. And there they are sitting there. If somebody had provided the liquidity, and here's the interesting debate that was going on. Let me share this with you. So let's say your sovereign wealth fund, $8 billion is a rounding error for you. Do you really need $8 billion? And let's say what was on the table in the deal was ownership of FTX, which was on the table. So for whatever the amount is to keep FTX liquid and compliant, you could own it. Now, if you think about Binance and FTX, that's about 82% of the world's exchange. I mean, that's it. And that's a big, big chunk. So there was interest. And here's the real debate that went on. It really wasn't $8 billion required, because if you could put in, let's say, $2 or $3 billion, then open the gates and let anybody that wanted to get out, get out. The minute you open a gate, some large percentage doesn't use the gate because they feel they're safe and now can transact again, and they've got backing. That was the debate going on in the later hours of Thursday of last week. My guesstimate, and it's only a guesstimate, is the number that could have cleared FTX and kept it solvent would be about $3.5, $4 billion, which is not a heavy price to pay for what had been built up over those years. However, once you go into a situation where regulators are coming in and the whole thing goes south, there's nothing you can do about that. But for about 12 hours, that was an interesting conversation going on all around the world.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And I come back with that video just to make you think.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
And guys, the more Kevin O'Leary speaks, the worse it gets. And what does he say? Oh, Sam was a great guy. No bad bone in his body. And we see all the media protecting him. No signs of arrest. No interviews, guys. And we have Kevin O'Leary, which is a great spokesperson, but he can't talk his way out of this one. Said that he spoke with other VCs to try to bail him out. Guys, he had BlackRock, SoftBank, Sequoia. $3 to $4 billion is nothing. And don't say it was because of rules and SEC, because we know JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, and all the big banks have broken every single rule there is possible. And we know the banks are the biggest what? I'm going to let you finish that.
that he's the son of compliance lawyers. Look, and my father was a great electrical engineer, and his father too. I'm not allowed near a plug. There was a thing about their governance at FTX that was very peculiar. There was no CFO, there was no board of directors. It seemed that management was kind of murky, and yet they were able to raise hundreds of millions of dollars. Do you think that the failure in due diligence and the failure to ask the questions and the failure of people to say, hey, you know what, this doesn't look the way we normally invest in companies. Why did so many people give Sam Bankman-Fried a pass when it came to governance, when it came to corporate governance and the structure and management? Is it just because of his parents being compliance lawyers? I mean, it's not genetic. He didn't go to law school as far as I could tell.
You know, they didn't raise hundreds of millions. They raised billions. The cap table has pretty well every significant financial services behemoth company on it. It was considered for a while to be the premier, compliant platform, in the sense that we had an American running it, an American creating it. That gave some people some confidence, maybe ill-advised. However, Sam Bankman-Fried is an American, and he's well known, and he is, no question, brilliant. I mean, when it comes to understanding blockchain and cryptocurrencies, very few people had his knowledge and his ability to build code around it. Remember, Serum is one of his projects as well. So he's well known in the community and a founder, and for a while, saving lots of other entities by putting cash into them. Where that cash came from is under question now, obviously. But the bigger question about this from the institutional perspective, and we're having this dialogue even today, is this does not kill crypto. This is one event that helps stabilize crypto. There's going to be a silver lining to this disaster. There's no question about it. It'll be called regulation. And I'll tell you why. It's not new regulation required here. You can look at any broker-dealer exchange tied in the U.S. to stocks or bonds or futures or commodities and have regulations that are protecting investors in the U.S. market. So it's not a big stretch to have the regulators finally say, we're going to apply that to crypto exchanges the same.
And guys, we have Kevin O'Leary says this event is going to bring on regulation. And we know that is correct. But while regulation is coming in, the big banks and big corporations are going to be controlling it all. It's going to be consolidated in the same few hands. Now we had Sam Bankman-Fried's parents, both law professors at Stanford. And we know Sam Bankman-Fried lobbied the Democrats and also a few Republicans. His mom led the group Mind the Gap, which helps raise Silicon Valley cash for Democrats, while his dad, Joseph Bankman, drafted tax legislation for the powerful Elizabeth Warren. And remember, Elizabeth Warren is always talking bad when it comes to crypto. But guys, we know Republican versus Democrat is nothing but the Hegelian dialectic. Remember, the bird needs both wings to fly. Yes, they always are in opposition when it comes to working for the people, but when it comes to the New World Order, they always pass their agendas. I don't care what it is. Remember, Trump passed all the AI rules. Now we have Biden moving ahead the fourth industrial revolution with the electric cars, the whole climate agenda. They come together to move the king's agenda. Now, when we look at FTX.US, remember, FTX.US was regulated. It was what they were doing overseas. And the reason why we know the NWO picked the Bahamas, because we know all the things they're able to get away with. And we can clearly see they're going to kick this can down the road when it comes to holding Sam Bankman-Fried accountable until they come up with the next distraction and everybody's going to forget, because nobody's talking about Do Kwon from Luna. Now we have Senator Loomis speaking the truth about FTX. And the way Sam Bankman-Fried was using a token was definitely a security. Also, she called Bitcoin a commodity. And we know Bitcoin is not a commodity. It was supposed to be peer-to-peer money to knock the banks out the system. But the central banks took over Bitcoin, And they're going to be using it for the robots, algorithms, and drones. And that's the reason why it's called a commodity. Internet money. Now the robots, algorithms, and drones have money. And the sheep are going inside the metaverse. And remember, the crypto teacher told you, because he knows when it comes to the New World Order, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
The structure of FTX, the lack of simple management and the way a board normally runs and a chairman, CEO, etc., didn't exist there. It seems there was no CFO. There was no regular structure. Was there a myth, the wonderkin myth? Why is everyone trusting anyone under 35? I mean, there's the old saying, don't trust anyone over 30. But in this case, I mean, we're seeing, Do Kwon was in his early 30s and a Canadian, my understanding. So what do we have here? What went wrong with all these investors that they put all that money in a structure that just didn't seem to be ordinary or regular?
You're absolutely right to ask these questions, and I guarantee you it will be litigated in the years ahead. By the time this is over, because of the nature of the chain itself, we'll know where that money went. We may not know the owner of the wallet, but we're going to find out where every single token went by the time this is over. Is to flush out the auxiliary collapses that are going to occur because of accounts that, let's say, public mining companies had with FTX or other hedge funds that have obviously over the weekend gone to zero in their accounts. Now, first, I have some disclosures here. Okay, number one, I'm a paid spokesperson of FTX, so I've been dealing with their management. I've spoken to Sam last week on Thursday. I also have corporate accounts in FTX. I'm also a shareholder of FTX International and FTX US. So now we got that out of the way. I just want to make sure I'm being very transparent on this. But we're not finished with the collateral damage. And so to your question, this is a bottoming process. An event like this is very important because it's finally going to have several impacts in areas that we need. It's going to accelerate regulation, number one. As we speak, I'm at the governor's conference in Orlando. This is topic number one in financial services. The amount of discussion going on last night and certainly today about this situation is going to move. It's definitely going to move legislation in the House. There's no question about that. This is a defining moment. But what we don't know is how many other dominoes are going to fall yet. We need that to finish out.
You mentioned.
Do you know how many Bitcoin FTX had when it declared bankruptcy on Friday? 0. None. Bitcoin is unique among cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin is a commodity. The other currencies with which FTX was operating, especially their own proprietary FTT, this is clearly a security. This should have fallen under the SEC. This should be where consumer protections and disclosure laws apply. This was a murky company with 130 or more affiliated companies. A very complicated situation where customer assets were allowed to be commingled with other assets. And because of that, customers lost their money. So you're dealing with actually two different entities, commodities, which is Bitcoin, and securities, which is almost every other cryptocurrency out there.
We're going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
This effort And China has big plans for this. They intend to seed their digital yuan into the global environment by giving it away to visitors at next winter's Olympics. When they arrive at the airport, they're going to get yuan digital wallets. They're going to receive digital yuan. They're going to use it throughout their visits to Beijing, and then they're going to take it back to their home countries. They see this as a huge advantage. Why? Because who controls the underlying protocols, who controls the underlying standards of the future of money will control the future of money.
Most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, you know I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids' books. You know, I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save New York from COVID-33. Part 3. King Joshua and Grandma Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.